And that was all that drove me. It was the knowing and the passion, and that I'm showing up for this thing. And I want to continue to work on my vessel and keep it as clean and clear as possible so that I can show up and continue to create this, what I now call a field of potential.
If we start to see that these extreme duality parts of pain and pleasure are actually one cycle or one breath, that's when we start to alchemize everything.
It was just empty. And I could see it in an instant. It was beautiful. It was scary, but it was beautiful. Mayan spaceships were supposed to take us away in 2012.
Join the journey, stay for a while.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another, and if I may say, special episode of KohPhanCast, the official podcast of Kopangan Island. And this week with me, not one guest, but two. For the first time, I'm having two guests, so the setup looks kind of different, you will see. Standing behind project, enormous, amazing project like Samadhi, Kalya Scintilla, Griffinkloud, and the all-knowing Merkaba. These two amazing souls searching consciousness, showing mysticism through retreats, through music, through any kind of art that they can make to push out the message that love is eternal, that consciousness is shared, that love is the essence of everything in life. Yaegon and Eve. Guys, for me, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, comment what you liked about this conversation, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna have some fun here. Enjoy the episode, guys. KohPhanCast, the official podcast of Kopangan Island. And we're on, That's the first time I'm doing like two people around me. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm gonna get vulnerable right away.
Mm-hmm.
You guys has been there for me without even knowing for the past 10 years. So thank you for that. For you, I met both of you, different occasion, different stories, which I'm gonna tell both of you because I had it in mind.
Right.
But before we start, guys, for the people out there that don't know you, please introduce Yaegon and Eve.
Ladies first.
Legs.
Yes, hello. We introduce us. Eve, Yaegon, Kalya Scintilla, Merkaba, Sonic Samadhi. Yeah.
Griffinkloud. What else?
Just keep on going. Eve the Voke.
Kalya Scintilla. Do we list all of this?
Yeah.
And
I hear all of them.
Yeah, you go on Lamagaia. That's my full name. It's not what Mum calls me, but that's who I am. And we together we are Sonic Samadhi, Kalya Scintilla, Merkaba, and a little bit of Griffinkloud. Not so sure about that one yet.
We'll see.
Seriously? Bro, I know I looked like, to the side note, I looked at those videos, the live sessions. Yeah. I had maps, of how everything worked, just for me to understand a little bit better, like what the hell is going on there, because you're working, all the electrons and free mixers and this and that, and I'm like, that's interesting, for me, that was one of the most beautiful videos I've seen on YouTube last couple of years. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. So if you're thinking whether to continue it or not, please do.
Yeah, for sure. It will continue. But it's a very challenging thing to make more minimal music after making trance for so long.
Yeah.
Which I like. It's a challenge. I enjoy challenges. But yeah, the whole gear thing was kind of a lockdown side quest. It was fun to get into, but then I realized I was making a lot less music because I had so many things to plug in and deal with and all of that. So I've whittled it away and it's a lot smaller now. But
I was electricity
playlist. Oh, we were off grid now. It was awesome.
From the sun.
Oh, yeah. We were completely off grid in that house. So yeah, that massive studio is powered by the sun.
No shit.
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, so we started somewhere in the middle, but I want to go all the way back to the start.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. For me, you're probably one of the best musicians alive. Okay. I know, compliments, we're all like that. It is what it is. But when did all of this start? This idea, before even starting to create music, the sacred geometry, the vibe, the energy, was it always there? Or do you have any encounter with something that opened this door?
For me personally, it, started way back when I was a kid, and yeah, probably with Bon Jovi.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. My brother had Bon Jovi albums, and I've listened to my dad's records, which were Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, that sort of stuff. And Mum had Lionel Richie and Isaac Hayes and Commodores and more funk and soul. So it was an awesome blend of music from both my parents, and they were very they didn't play instruments, but they were really advocating like listening to music. Every time we went in the car, it was about what music we were listening to. And of course, when we went on road trips as a family, always the music was like a big thing. So yeah, then, as far as the sacred geometry thing, I came across, my mum and dad kept a file of all the stuff, all these things from school. And I was flicking through it, looking at old little artworks and things I'd done when I was a kid. And I found this one, which I reckon I was probably about around 10 when I made it. And I remembered the assignment. We had to blend something in the new world with the old world and do an art piece about it. And I made this city called Egyptni, and it was Sydney in the foreground and the Sydney Harbour Bridge going over with hieroglyphics on the bridge, and then ancient Egypt on the other side of the bridge, and this massive comet coming down in the sky, and the pyramids and everything. And I look back at that and I was like, whoa, what? I guess I was into Egypt from a young age. Yeah.
Like that was always there.
I think it was there. It was dormant, but of course, psychedelic experiences and opening those gateways really sort of switched me on to, reading the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, that book. And yeah, especially once you delve into the psychedelic, you start to see the patterns of creation and you start to identify that in the world. And yeah, it becomes a bit of an obsession for some of us, I guess.
Trust me, I know what you're saying.
Circles and triangles and spirals.
Yeah, just the fact that you can see things that are so simple. You have this triangle next to you, the fractals, right over there. That an episode before you or after you, I don't know when I'm going to release it. It's a doctor that has been going through sacred geometry for like 10, 15 years now. So this word is so deep and I can totally understand where it comes from.
Dude, succulents.
Definitely.
How cool are they?
Just the concept that like, if you can title it like just as above, so below, that everything is a fractal, that life kind of starts from within, go out, like this whole system of how things work at the end of the day. Like, I think we can all share this view of like how magical and crazy life can get when you just let it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
When we dive into like psychedelic experiences, that's the first story I have to tell you from me, because the first time I had like my first psychedelic experience was here at Koh Lanta on the south side of Thailand, if I remember right. I might butcher it. And I accidentally took like a pretty big dose of LSD. And the best solution of one of my friends to just get it passed was to let me sit on a rolling chair next to the ocean for like 6 to 8 hours. And he just put one track of yours. I'm going to remember which one of them it was. And just gave me like 8 hours of probably what was the whole discography or, I don't know. Yeah. So I got like a huge window to this world. And I didn't know you. I didn't know the vibe that you guys brought, but something about the music, now I'm talking about specifically the Merkaba project, something clicked, because for you to give such a message out, you gotta understand it for yourself in such a, as I see it, such a more broad way. Like trying to portray an idea makes you like understand it even more. Like, how do you even start? Like, think about the idea that is behind such a massively valuable, and like when someone has the capacity to look at such a big idea, like what's standing behind this project, how do you get to such like, was it like an idea of a project that, okay, we're gonna push that idea, or was it just evolving? Like, can you describe the start of this project?
Yeah. The initial thing was sending a demo to Tim Sensient at Xenon Records and having him knock it back and say, hey, man, it sounds too much like Pete and JMO and Zeb. And like, of course, they were my influences, and I would take their songs and put them in Logic and like figure out, you know, the way that the song worked. And so I'd make my own versions of that, which is a great place to start for any, you know, budding producer. But of course, you know, he was right. And so I took that as inspiration to figure out like, what is my sound? Or what is going to be like the trance that I make that separates me from sounding like those guys? And it sort of evolved out of an exploration around a time when I was driving around Australia. And one of the seminal moments was out in Alice Springs, out in the middle of the desert. And this woman had let us stay in her desert sanctuary for a week. Her name was J9, super cool lady. And yeah, so during that week, I really went deep into this song called Dreamscape, which was on the first EP.
Yeah.
And it has this chant in it, right? And it was the first time that I'd taken this sort of ancient chant thing and put it in. And it was like the reverb with the percussion. I was creating a space which just felt like really sort of deep and meaningful to me anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, just, and I also had a joke that if I sampled something from Waking Life, then Tim would say yes, because everyone else on the label had sampled Waking Life.
These ones.
Yeah, exactly. And lo and behold, when I sent that song to him, he's like, yeah, this is great. If you do 3 more like this good, you know, we'll do that as the EP. So it was, yeah, just taking, I was getting into like, you know, Tibetan bowls and starting to research ancient stuff to do with sound. And of course, Tibetan chanting and the bowls and the bells and then ancient instruments, these things, the more I explored and found these instruments, the more they resonated and the more I wanted to use them. So it was just sort of this feedback loop. And I think, you know, we do feel connection to ancient things, especially if our soul has been in this realm many times. It's just this, you know, it's beyond words. It's just this, oh, I get that, you know? So, yeah.
So from my perspective, when we first met, we basically were talking as if we were sharing notes, like we had basically known each other forever. And what was special about that is I think it relates to the question you're asking is like, where is all this information coming from? And what I can really attest to, and because I'm on an outside perspective, is the fact that we were into all of this stuff as soon as we started. So it feels like a lot of the, what we call it, ancient future now, it's like this memory, and I think a lot of people can attest to this, that we're inside of an awakening on the planet. And some of us are really tapped into just those deep ancient memories that we hold inside of our being and our body. And so then when we get together, we start collaborating with others, and then the music comes through, and there's dimensions and portals and gateways. And we would do ritual and intention together and mythology. And so they were laced in these deep esoteric themes. And it felt like they were coming through us. It wasn't like we were trying. It felt right. It felt like, of course, isn't this where everyone else is? And then it took us time of like, oh, right, we're all at different stages. But yeah, I think it's been an effortless flow in that way for the intention, the ritual, and then the memories that we share together that then get infused into the music.
Yeah, that was a big shift when Eve came on the scene. It was, you know, I was putting some intention into songs, and I'd have, you know, maybe I'd have a DMT experience and then I'd put the vibe of whatever I felt from that experience in a song. But then when Eve came along, she said, what about story and mythology? And then she sort of taught me in a way to translate a story across an entire album, which I'd never really done before. Each song was just, you know, its own individual jam and voyage, and then they just come together as a compilation. But then it was, raising the stakes with this like whole story, and with that story, the characters and the landscapes and yeah, it totally changed the game for my music writing, and yeah, it was a amazing thing to start doing.
And it does feel like you're two parts of the same thing, because yeah, from one side you have the music, but holding the space like you're doing, and like it's not a thing that not a lot of people understand your role in this thing. And I really understood it the first time I've seen you live. I think it was the first time or the second. It was 2019 in Israel at the desert. Yeah, there was a party with Gaudi, Tetramer, Shadow Effect. So that was a great, great event.
Yes.
And I remember standing right in front of you guys playing, and I remember catching you in the eyes for a second. And the same moment I understood like what you're doing there. Like I felt like something is cleaning me from the inside, and I was like, okay, she has an important role here. How do you see your thing inside of this?
I think the biggest way that I can kind of describe it is I'm the silence in between the notes. So in any kind of like the Merkaba, right? It's like you've got the father and you've got the mother, and then they kind of come together and they create creation. So similar to our vibe is the masculine, feminine coming together. And for me, it's an honor to be able to hold the vibration of the life force energy, right? And I think that this is something that people are really aching for, and they don't really realize it until they come to a set and they say to me, like, I never knew performance could be like that. And I think it took a different turn once I actually started sitting in stillness on stage. It was like really showing people like I'm here to be present with you fully and feel every moment with you. And then it would give people that permission slip of like, oh, I can enter into the music. I can actually go in and experience it on this whole other level. So whether they consciously get it or they don't, I feel like, yeah, I just anchored that permission slip, and it feels like I'm a reflection of the audience, and we're together in the moment.
And do you always have this feeling of like, you need to be responsible for something, you need to hold the space, you need to like, where is did you always feel like a space holder?
For me, it feels more like giving permission. Like I'm giving permission for people to feel. And we live as a global community in a culture that isn't used to that. We're actually told the opposite, not to feel and to be strong and all these things. So I feel like I'm just a permission slip. And I think what's actually holding us in the space is something much larger than us. So I tune into the consciousness of the field itself, and I feel like that holds the space for all of us. And then I'm joining everyone in the moment together and, giving them that permission.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, it's not us. We're just a representation of an energy that lives out there. And when we get to the spot that we are clean enough with ourselves, we can be used as this channel to this energy. But I do think that we can give ourselves a little bit of credit, because it is you over there sitting. Like I've seen it yesterday, sitting there for 2.5 hours. Leave the fact that you blocked one of my cameras, but it's all good. But it was just, seeing you there and you're like fully present for the whole thing. Like I know some people that would try to do it and every 45 minutes would check their messages or something, that's a meditation.
Yes.
Like for any, like, do you do it also like, of course, using the channel, that, but what is your, like, you're probably doing it for yourself also. Like,
there's a deeper layer of what all this is. So it's understanding that like the external practice and the internal practice. So I represent the internal practice. Somatic therapies, massive. I had massive trauma growing up, physical abuse, a lot of emotional pain. So when I got to California, I'm originally from Cleveland, and I came to California and this whole consciousness community opened up. And the first thing that I wanted to learn was meditation, healing, really working on myself, of course, at first. And then I also did theater. So then I started working with other performers and realized they needed help. They needed assistance in the embodiment of what we were doing and practicing on stage. So if you go into acting and theater as the art form, you start to understand that the art form is really the alchemy of yourself. It's your voice, your body, your presence, your energy. So I took it to the next level with really clearing myself, being inside of practices, going to energy medicine school for 2 years, studying with a mentor. So what you're seeing on stage is basically all of my work, all of the things that I've done. Yaegon would say that it's actually coming through my voice. So people really respond to the fact that the vocals that I come in with has a presence to it. Like all of a sudden a DJ will play my track and people stop and they listen. And I think what I'm doing is I'm basically being the vessel, like you say, or the conduit for presence. And it is all of my hard work. It is all of my intention and attention on where I'm stuck, where I'm blocked, and then working on that constantly 24/7. I think you can attest to that. I'm always working on that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of obsessed.
Yeah. I'm obsessed in the studio with making music, and she's obsessed with the inner technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that we cannot reach someone's, like bottom of their heart or their soul if we haven't reached the same spot in ourselves as well. So you, from your part, creating the music, and you're holding the space and the vocals and everything, something works there, because I know that I'm not the only one that their heart got scratched like unimaginably like strong from what you two have created, So again, thank you on behalf of probably the entire world, because I haven't like seen people treat their favorite artist like I've seen your community, because I think it's the extra layer of the content that is coming out through the tracks, this grounding, the energy that comes through the tracks that you cannot really hear from anyone else. Like try just out of nowhere put in a mix one of your tracks, that's a stop. That's like, okay, there's a new energy coming here.
Yes.
When did you start feeling that this energy is starting to accumulate around your project?
I had a bit of a visionary experience in 2007, which is why I decided to actually make Merkaba in the first place. And it involved experiencing tetramath and sentience music and how powerful that was. That was sort of the first stage. And then the second stage was a sort of a mushroom vision with my higher self, which was very much a solidified energetic of you are here for this mission. You have the music had always been around me my whole life, and I'd always sort of wanted to do the music, but I didn't know how. And it was after that experience, it was in Cairns at a Buschdorf in 2007. Yeah, I came back to the city and it was night and day. It was almost like it shifted my whole reality, and I came back to the city and my job was a lie. My girlfriend, our relationship was a lie. My friends with all the people I'd take drugs and go to clubs with, it was just empty. And I could see it in an instant. It was beautiful. It was scary, but it was beautiful. And yeah, I moved back to my parents' farm and I started focusing with this knowing. And that was all that drove me. It was the knowing and the passion, and that I'm showing up for this thing. And I want to continue to work on my vessel and keep it as clean and clear as possible so that I can show up and continue to create this, what I now call a field of potential. So it's like we're creating this field of potential. And when you step into it, the soul, if it's ready, will pick something up from that field of potential. So yeah, it's just about showing up for that. And I don't know, other than that experience of that aha moment, there hasn't really been much else. It's been so simple. It's been complex because life is challenging for sure. But the simplicity is always that there's this deep thing in my heart where I know like, okay, this is what I'm here to do, like a feeling of dharma or purpose, and just showing up for that.
I think when we're in the studio and our life, this is different than most people, our life becomes a practice. So we're detoxing our bodies. We are really mindful of what we are watching as far as media. We're pretty minimal on our daily. So it's kind of like we're in an ashram, if you will, and the art is the devotion. So that I think creates potency in what the music is. And I think it's also getting more extreme as people are awakening to it. Like I know last night, I could feel people feeling the music in a way that I haven't really felt before. So the audience is very much a part of our collaboration. You know, we came out like 15, almost 20 years ago now. And we've been holding this vibration for a while, but it seems like just now there's a depth and dimension that in the audience that they're really picking up. And it's beautiful. It's really gorgeous and sublime. But I think it's people opening to the potency of the presence and the intention in the music. They're like, whoa, wait a minute, there's something here. And it's like they're awakening to that fact deeper, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I would say this as well because this awakening is going around for a couple of years now. Yeah, we can all feel it, I think. When
Yes.
it needs to feel it, you know, like you said, it's stages. I can definitely feel it, you know, that people are getting like, I want to believe, yeah, a little bit calmer. Their heart is opening a little bit, you know, and I think we all have this part in it, you know, because each of us have this little heart, like little fire in their heart that we can give others without like losing ours, you know, like probably love is the only thing that you can give as much as possible and you will still not like lose even one drop of,
Yes.
you know. So it's I can see it a lot, especially when I live in a place like that, you know, here in KohPhanCast. It's not that hard to be saying, oh yeah, life is beautiful, you know. I wish we could say it on more places out there because, you know, reality can be kind of cruel and hard. And like, as people, like both of you, we're going to let each one of you say, you know, their turn. But what do you think is the core idea of this awakening? Like, how come right now the shift is happening? What's going on?
Big question.
Yeah.
You go first.
Well, yeah, we're talking about cycles of time that are immense, you know, 26,000 years if you look at the Vedas and the yugas, right? We're coming out of the Kali Yuga into the next Yuga. But these are massive cycles of time. And yeah, I feel that this has been going on for a lot longer. You know, we talk about the harmonic convergence in the 80s. Just looking at stuff that came out of that, you know, like one of my favorite comedians, Bill Hicks, you know, he had a visionary experience on harmonic convergence with mushrooms involving an extraterrestrial race. And that changed his art forever. You look at his comedy before that moment and then after, that's when he became like a prophet.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that there's these ripples of this energy. Around 2007, when I really opened my eyes and my heart big time, there was another wave happening, and that sort of crested around 2010 and then dissipated. And around 2013, we both identified that people were going back into the forgetting again. And now there's another wave coming. But what's different about this wave?
This one is good. So the way I had this really intense dream, my friend was making some mugwort tea. And if you're not familiar with mugwort, it's basically an herb that is supposed to help you dream. Okay. I was in the guest room and the fumes from the tea was coming into the guest room. I'm sleeping. I had no idea that this is what they were doing in the kitchen. I have this incredible, very vivid dream where I'm standing on a starship. And the only reason I knew it was a starship because when I looked down at the floor, I could see the floor was see-through and I could see all the stars underneath me. And I looked to the right and there's a circle of beings, humans that are in kind of like almost next generation uniforms, you know? So I'm looking at them and everyone's speaking telepathically, but in the center. And then from the center, it's like all this energy was coming into each of us. So we could hear everyone speaking, and all the information was forming one stream of idea. So in this, it was telling me light and dark as you know it is going to completely change. Whatever you put on a pedestal, whatever you demonize, put it in the middle, because we can't comprehend how different reality is going to be when we go through this shift. A big thing they said was the next wave of ascension comes through the earth herself. So it means from our very cells in our body and from the connection, from the vibration of the earth, they said eat of the earth directly. It's like she has the medicine, the vibration that's basically going to take us to the next level. So I woke up from this dream and it felt like I was on the most incredible ecstasy of my life. And I was kind of like shaking, and I heard this voice say, breathe. That was a lot of information. Just keep breathing. And when I woke up the next morning, I told Yaegon what had happened in the dream. And I said, we have to get ready. Like, this vibration of ascension is coming through the body. And it's the most sublime, gorgeous, grounded ecstasy and pleasure you can imagine. So when I think of this, I think, wow, a lot of the governments and the world wars and all of these things have a fear vibration. What if this ascension comes to the body and keys us into the reality that life is actually streaming from us and it's actually a pleasurable thing? It's like the fear doesn't affect us anymore. Like, we can kind of see through it. And then creativity of solutions start coming and birthing. And I heard this one guy speaking, and he goes, imagine that the love vibration gets so strong that nobody shows up for the wars anymore. No one's there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that could be possible. That'd be amazing, right? But yeah, through the earth herself and through the body. And I do believe that this is a prophecy that all of the ancients have been talking about from every line and every culture. This is it. This is the moment.
Yeah. That, once again, the deepest and most profound religion out there is love, is abundance, is empathy, at the universe, we're here, in my eyes, the reason that we came here is to kind of experience illusion, to experience negativity, to experience suffering, because out there it doesn't exist, it's just the whole thing that is just there.
Yes.
The creation, the aura, whatever you want to call it, and then we come here. And then things are starting to get subjective. I have my thoughts, I have my emotions. Am I the voice that's speaking? Am I the voice that's listening? What's going on?
Yeah.
And so one of the streams that he started giving those advices, lessons, is music. And then I stumbled upon a podcast that you done on SoundCloud that was also super nice. What made you want to shift also to this verbal way of doing things, another way to send the message out? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, just another channel for communicating and sharing ideas. I mean, we've traveled around the world so many times, we've met so many characters, we've been to so many places, and along the way, we're always comparing all these notes. And Eve, being the scribe that she is, she writes all this stuff down, so much stuff. And it just got to a point where we were like, wow, we have some really big things to talk about. Let's just make a podcast.
Yeah. So basically, it was wanting to talk about the depth and dimension that goes into the albums. There's so many people, depending on what level. There's some people who get it immediately. They're like, you guys are on the galactic team. You're from the future. I get it.
Yeah, well done for it.
I mean, 800%. Then there's others that are like, I like your beats, bro. So we have that range. And so we just wanted to give voice to the fact that we are actually putting intention in. We are studying all of these deeper levels of reality, and that we integrate them into life. It's not just this woo-woo, kind of, out there talk. It's grounded. It's practical. How is it affecting our health, our well-being, our inner, this buzzword now is emotional intelligence, the nervous system, all these words that we're like, this is how you live it. This is how you breathe it. This is how you integrate all these really esoteric concepts, but this is what it looks like on the everyday, conflict resolution. When someone, upsets you, what do you do? How do you react? What do you learn? Because like you said beautifully, we are here for that. We're here for the friction. We're here for the conflict. We're here for the suffering because it's our greatest teacher. It's like, there's a beautiful saying, no mud, no lotus. It's like the density, the harshness, the cruelty, all of those pieces, they create basically this ascension process. There would be no ascension if we didn't start at the very, very bottom of suffering. Yeah,
if we didn't have what to ascend from.
Exactly.
What is ascension? I cannot have a coin with one side. It's not possible. And but it is, we do come here to suffer, but maybe even we come here to get ourselves to understand that we can also enjoy suffering, because it's so easy to enjoy the bright side. Oh yeah, our life is great. We're living on islands. We're doing whatever we want. All good. But then the storm comes, and the moment you learn how to enjoy the storm also, it's not about having fun when it's fun and crying when it's not, it's more about surfing the waves of your emotion, this infinite stream of consciousness that we are all once in a while putting our head in the river and then asking ourselves why our heads are wet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of, okay, you chose to come here.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the grand scheme of things, I wish I would have a little bit more proof or whatever that to say yeah, I chose to come here. I chose my parents. But it does feel like that's kind of, we're coming here to experience.
Yes.
To be part of it. Yes. And I just want to get some of your insight, because you have such a huge pool of these ideas that you bring to the table. Let's say we're already in 2025. God damn it, time flies. What is the core principle of the status that you guys are in coming into this new year, coming into this new, it's quarter of a century, what are you bringing? How maybe the core values that you are want to get a little bit more deep into, or a new story that you want to put out there, a new lesson that you got from somewhere that you want to push out.
The Mayan spaceships were supposed to take us away in 2012. So, I don't know what's going on. I'm just making it up as I go.
Fucking waiting.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a big question, you know? I think it's what I would have answered in that question 3 years ago is very different from what I would answer now.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 years for us was brutal. We went through the 3 hardest years that we'd ever been through a series of very dark and intense experiences in Hawaii with some pretty intense shadow teachers.
Oh, wow.
And yet the whole time there was synchronicity and magic. So it was undeniable that was our path. And yet being in it, and each way that it unfolded and got worse, we were kind of dumbfounded. Wow, well, what did we do to end up here? Mm-hmm. And yet we signed up for it, So yeah, it was intense. So coming out the other side, it's only been a matter of mere months that we've been coming back out into the world. And, just the last night and 2 nights ago at the Jungle Club, just being back in our element again, and the love and the joy that came from that was just overwhelming. It was almost hard to take it on. The heart is a little closed after the last few years. Yeah. So it's all right.
Mine also.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big, since 2020, it's been a crazy time for all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, the energy right now is so potent, and it just feels like there's so much opportunity for transformation, for expansion, for transmuting. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, you were talking about how to embrace the suffering. So I think that that's part of the way that I see it too, is like the past few years have been so intense for so many of us, lots of grief, on all these different levels, collective, personal, family, and how to do that, like how to actually embrace and to accept the suffering, right? And I think that that's something that we had to actually live and breathe for the past few years, which you're talking about.
Yeah.
And somehow this is, I think, something that we want to keep bringing into the art. It's like learning how to go through the waves. So this one healing session I had, it was showing me that my grief is actually the same breath as the joy. So like joy and grief are actually one breath. One's an inhale, one's an exhale, right? And so if we start to see that these extreme duality parts of pain and pleasure are actually one cycle or one breath, that's when we start to alchemize everything. And I think that that on the big level, I know I'm going out here a little bit, but on the big level, I think that's what we're learning how to do as humans. And I think that that's what is so powerful and potent in the art is, especially as Earth to Sky, it was written that way, to go into the shadow and touch the depth of darkness and then bring it into the light. So it's like we're weaving this as we breathe. And I think what's happening is that as a collective, as we survive through each intense wave that comes through, we're like, okay, we made it. Okay, that was intense. We go again, and there's another wave, and then we're like, okay, we made it. So it's like, what is the part of us that's always there? What is the part of us that is like untouchable? And then going through and feeling like we're going to crash into the waves and be decimated and all of the devastating vibrations that we felt, and then keep breathing, and there's still love, there's still presence, there's still breath, and you just like sink into that, realize, oh my God, like I love going out to the ocean every day and it nourishes me. Thank God that I have like this, beautiful fruit that I'm eating in my mouth. So like the simplicity, of the day in and day out. And then there's a wisdom that starts to come. So when I see someone else who's been suffering, my heart opens and I'm like, I feel you. And just by saying that, it helps them so much. Yeah. So I think that that would be probably the distillation of what we have been going through. But I feel like the art has always been that thing, but now we're living that thing that we put in the art.
Yeah. 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 It also feels that, I think with 2020 and the whole period of lockdown and, the overreach of totalitarian governments worldwide creating so much fear, it really shook everyone up. There's a lot of PTSD in the collective. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's also mirrored with the tenderness that's now in the collective. So we can see that the gift comes out of the shadow as well.
The same.
I noticed as soon as we traveled to Australia and I could feel, my homeland and my home tribe and feel like the tenderness that wasn't there before. And then I went off to Brazil and again, traveling across the world for the first time in years, I was like, whoa, this feels a bit different, And it really feels that, with the PTSD and the fear, like we noticed in Hawaii, there's a lot of people who are living with this fear of like, oh, the outside world, you don't want to go out there, you don't want to leave the island because anything could happen.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of doom and gloom scenario that like something bad's going to happen again. You shouldn't leave the island. And
says the island that has a volcano on it,
Exactly. Where there's like earthquakes every other day. I really feel like one of the things that we're practicing to show up in now is just this letting go, to let go of the fear, to trust in the path that's laying itself out before us.
Even if it's painful.
Yeah. I mean, we just had some gigs cancelled in Australia and some really low turnouts because of a scenario that happened.
Yeah.
And that was like really shocking for us to come back to Australia for a return tour. There was still some great vibes at the parties, but it was really unexpected, but we just had to deal with it. We had to make the most of it. And, in Melbourne, where there were other massive shows happening that were announced way before ours, you know, we just had to open our guest list and invite everyone for free. And it was awesome because so many people came out and the club wasn't packed. So there was lots of room to dance and the vibe was amazing. So, you know, we're working with this transmutation now. We're being hit with these challenges, and it's that choice of love or fear. It's a choice that we all have to make almost every day. Love or fear? Am I going to close myself off? Am I going to, you know, choose something that is based in fear, or am I going to open into the unknown, which is usually pretty hard. You know, it's challenging for a lot of humans to open to the unknown because we don't know, we can't see. But if you learn, you know, the language of the heart, the unknown it just becomes like almost, I don't know, it's exciting in a way.
Exciting.
Yeah.
You can let it be exciting.
You have like this physical sight, but you also have this internal sight that can show you what truly happens, you know, like, and the universe, come on, we all know it. The universe loves when you trust something without knowing where it's going to end, but you run after it.
Yeah.
That's that energy. It's contagious. People love it. The universe love it. And usually when someone follows their dream all the way to the end without knowing where it's going, usually it works, you know, because as I see it, like when you look at a road that still doesn't exist, it kind of like gives you the hint that you are paving a new way. You know, no new way can be paved without, you know, someone being the first one to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so if it's like an emotional side of paving the way to the best version of yourself or to enlightenment or whatever you want to call it, like I still think that no matter what we are doing on the daily basis, that's the goal that we try to achieve, whether we want it or not. You know, because what we do can differ between people, but how we do things and what are things is kind of universal. You know, we all want to be loved. We all want to feel like safe. We all want to have people appreciative of us. We all want to just be part of creation.
Yes.
You know, and then when you talk about this fear that people from outside and forces try to force on us, you know, and I think they've done something kind of stupid, which is like to break the threshold, you know, to think that we are capable of taking too much fear, when in reality, it's kind of getting cringy, you know, because how many, like, different kinds of fear are you gonna try to implement on me? You know what? Fuck all you know, like, okay, so somewhere in 2020, we could start seeing like that. Okay, this is getting kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know, and this is happening, and this is happening, and now this is happening, and the moment this stopping happening, this is starting to happen. And like, come on, I can feel a script.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I can feel something trying to keep me where I am.
Exactly.
And I think so many people got so tired of this bullshit.
Yeah.
Of like, you know what? If you try to put fear on me, I might as well just try to do what I want to do. Because if I'm not going to try, then I have no way of winning. But if I try, at least I have something.
Yeah.
You know, so this feeling that, you know, like being vulnerable and saying, you know what? Let's go for it. Whatever. It is what it is. And another thing that I wanted to ask you guys was, which came first, Merkaba or Kalya Scintilla?
Technically Merkaba. Yeah.
And like when you perform Merkaba and when you perform Kalya Scintilla, is the intention different? Is the energy that you come here with different? Like, are those two different representation of the same message? Like, talk about the parallels between those projects.
Yeah. Of course, Merkaba being born out of that name and the meaning of it, you know, this vehicle of light for the soul, transcending dimensions.
You don't need to take on yourself. Huh?
I know. It was kind of just a happy accident, I guess, because, I needed a name for a gig at a warehouse in Sydney, which was my first official Merkaba gig. And, I just chose that name because I was reading the book with Drumvalo, The Flower of Life. And I love the concept of the Merkaba. I was like, that sounds great. Maybe my music can be this vehicle, you know, to take people to other dimensions. Sounds great. Super sci-fi. I love sci-fi. So, it really felt like there was a really strong intention. It was a bit more serious, a bit more deep and spiritual. Whereas Kalya came out of the joy of listening to belly dance music, Spongel, Tipper, and a few other stuff in that ilk, and just sort of experimenting with playing with these different, influences, and then it just sort of became a thing. But it didn't really have like a depth or a seriousness. It was more playful. But then when Eve came along, then it was like a real different level, because we were like, okay, let's make an entire album, Open Ancient Eyes, which is like a full story.
Mhm.
And that was the first time we did that.
Yeah, about the human awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're still somehow different, because Kalya's a bit more, it's a little bit more fantasy, I would say. Yeah, because of the storytelling aspect. Merkaba has some storytelling in it, but there's still something different in the way that they are both approached. Even the way that I produce them, I take different choices so that the sound is not too identical. I try and challenge myself to keep production methods separate to an extent. So that's how that.
I would liken it to almost like a DMT trip,
Yeah.
Like there's a form, it's called NN-DMT, and then there's 5-MeO. We've heard the difference, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 5-MeO is basically you go straight to God.
Yeah.
That's Merkaba.
You are.
You are going to the seventh dimension and up.
Everybody had a serious talk.
Yeah, that's where we're going, right? So in the trance music,
12D, baby.
we're talking 12D.
Yes.
So for me, in the trance music, that's where we're going. It's like, no doubt, this is where we're going. But with the Kalya, it's more the NN-DMT, where, they say that you see aliens and that there's like little worlds upon worlds. It's like all the little journeys and little side trails that you get eventually to the 7D, but it's like the journey on the way there, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I would say NN-DMT is Kalya, and then the 5-MeO is, Merkaba.
All right.
There it is.
I like it. Say that.
It's different psychedelics, same destination, but we just different ways to get there.
Yeah. It's always so interesting to see people that has like more than one project that is super successful. Then you see like Kalya Scintilla is one point of view of yours. And then you have Merkaba, like you say, like the different kind of substances. I would see like Merkaba as the older brother that is like, okay, we have a mission to do. And Kalya being the little sister, which like, let's have some fun, And then comes Griffinkloud, which honestly, I really enjoy it as well, but having this three different perspective that at the end of the day, you can feel it's you. From all three of them, and also the evolution of them, seeing the early works of Kalya, and then the latest album, like you had this track with Estastone that I really enjoyed, and like you can see the point of view is the same point of view from the first tracks to the last, but the way you are able to make others connect to it is getting so much more like connected and just clearer, just brighter with the years. Are you working on any new music, Kurt?
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, obviously taking a lot of time off the road. Yeah, had a lot of time to write music. There's the new Kalya EP, which came out, last week? I think it was last week. Tales from the Path, Chapter 1. That's the first in 5 chapters. And there's 25 songs in total. And the other 20 songs are pretty much done. There's just some fine tweaking. So that's what I worked on over the last year. There's another batch of Griffinkloud things in the works. And there's an entire new Merkaba album, which is under construction at the moment. Which is,
so happy.
I think it's going to be like, it's going to be like 13 songs. And no, 12.
Something new, right?
Yeah, there's been some new stuff in the recent sets. Yeah.
I know all the lyrics, bro.
Yeah.
I know when someone new is coming.
Yeah. So there's a lot under development. But I always like to, get the tracks pretty much done, play them out a few times, and really, like, I'll be on stage and everyone thinks I'm like doing some cool thing to the music. I'm making mix notes. I'm there like, okay, the kick is a little bit too intense in 200 hertz. you know, and I'm not there making notes. So when I get back to the studio, I can make final adjustments.
Yeah, just try to look at it not on bypass before you sit for 6 hours with like you.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And it looked like it's never ending, you know, like you can do things for like you say 15, 20 years and still go on the little details of like, oh yeah, the 216 hertz
Oh, yeah.
on the,
Well, you know, I don't really enjoy the technical stuff so much like that. Like I was teaching my students at the retreat last week.
yes.
For me, the infinite source of inspiration, it really comes from intention and storytelling, you know, because we talk about stuff and we write things down. And like I have a creative journal at home and then notes that I make on my computer when I'm traveling if I get like downloads of stuff that are really interesting. And the amount of pages of stuff I have to work off, because it's treating it like, you know, it's storytelling, it's imagination, and you write keywords down and then they're like seeds and they, you know, percolate in consciousness and subconscious. And then you come back with like aha moments. Oh, I'm going to do this and that. And I'll write entire pages of stuff now, which are like pre-meditations to albums. And then I've got like a back catalog of a whole bunch of stuff. Like even with Sonic Samadhi, there's like 8 albums of potential already written down. So, you know, I love teaching this to my students because writer's block is like a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Once you really open your imagination.
Yeah.
And that really is about getting out of the head and harmonizing the head and the body so that you have this this sort of channel for the creative energy to come through. Because when we're in our mind, it's very easy to get confused and then blocked. And that's that.
Yeah.
So Kalya too. Kalya is coming in with the
For sure, yeah.
final chapter.
We have chapter final. You say final, never say final.
The last part of the 3-part trilogy. Come on, this is a moment.
I said that the last Merkaba album was going to be my last one. And then after 5 years off, I was like, oh, there's a whole new album coming. Let's go. So never say never, but
the last part of the 3-part
Open
trilogy.
Ancient Eyes is chapter 1.
Yeah.
Gaia and Code is chapter 2. And then another one, a third one, which has a name, is going to be chapter 3. And we're writing notes about that. We've got a lot of research and development going on with that. And it's a big one. You know, it's a big story. The first chapter was the human bloodlines, the hero's journey. It was very much, you know, a human tale. The second one, the earth, the elements, the animals, the trees, all of that. So like everything that made up Gaia. And we had to actually go on a journey around the world and go on this crazy 14-month tour with 34 countries and take recordings and sit on the earth and kind of gather information before we could finish that album. We tried to finish it before, but it just wasn't happening. We had to do the journey. And so the third one is well underway. But, you know, we'll see.
No, I'm really excited about the third one.
Yeah.
Personally, because I'm doing the backstories. I'm doing all the mythos, and like finally this piece has come in, and I'm really excited how they're going to fit together. So it'll be kind of like a circle. So instead of a line of like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, it's actually they'll dovetail into each other. So it's like a circle. You could then start opening ancient eyes and go back through the whole circle. So I got really excited when that kind of download came in. I was like, yeah. I'm like, it's a circle, it's not a line.
That's how you do things to this extent, you know, like there's gotta be more than just the music, you know, like the backstory, the intention, like you say, the energy that you bring to the table is at the end of the day what is going to decide how people are going to feel it.
Yes.
And then you're going and having the retreats that you started talking about. That's not the first retreat that you're doing. You had a couple of them before, right?
Yeah, that was number 4.
And guide me a little bit through the process of doing those retreats. How does the first one feels different than now? The evolution of those.
So we had been off the road for 5 years. We were absolutely in need of getting out into the world and generating some income again. And Eve was like, you've been writing notes and teaching people online and doing that whole thing. Like, you should make a retreat. You know, people would love that. And I was a little bit resistant, like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And then she said, all right, look, here's my curriculum of how I taught my women. and like just riff off that with all your notes. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, oh, cool. I made a curriculum in like a few days. And then we made one in Hawaii and we had 4 students. So it was so perfect to just have 4 students, and each one of them were magical beings and so varied in their spectrum of their music and how long they'd been doing it from beginner to professional. And yeah, we did it on a little farm, a friend's farm in Hawaii. And it was an amazing experience. And I got to run this curriculum and take them through this journey. And then a few months, or like less than a month later, we had the second one. I did a little bit of revision. And then that one went really, really well. That was 6 students. And then we decided to take it to Australia to a friend's retreat center there near Byron Bay. And yeah, then it was like a group of 20. It was like, oh, okay, next level.
Man.
So yeah, then taking them all through the journey. And it really, yeah, there hasn't been a great deal of evolution. It's just been fine tuning. And it's actually helped me a lot. I heard that you learn a lot about your art by teaching it.
Yes.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that before,
100%.
but it's kind of like, it's almost like a cheat code.
Yeah.
Because like a year ago, I didn't have 25 new Kalya tracks, but after analyzing my whole process and making a formula of it, it got me so much more efficient in the studio working the way I work now. But yeah, when we sit down for the retreat, it's about, well, first of all, we show up in the morning for breath work and we do 3 to 4 rounds of Wim Hof. And I kind of take them on a crash course, and we go from beginner Wim Hof to more intermediate by the end of the week. And then because that gets us in the body and really clean and clear and focused and centered and grounded, we do some stretching, we eat well. We do lectures on the mysticism aspect because it's called music and mysticism.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
That's borrowed from an amazing book, probably the best book about music ever written, called is it just called Music and No, I can't. It's by Hazrat Inyat Khan, The Mysticism of Sound and Music. Yeah, amazing book by a Sufi prophet, basically.
I'm gonna put it.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So, yeah, the mystical aspect is talking about interpersonal relationship to creativity. That's the basis of it. We can go into some crazy places when we talk, but it's really distilling it down to how does this help you show up as an artist? Like we're talking about with the imagination and stimulating infinite creative ideas so that you never get writer's block. But it's just also the routine. It's the discipline, reframing our relationship to the word discipline so that we can actually have devotion and show up each day, create a routine and a healthy cycle around the art. So yeah, it's been amazing thus far, and it's just getting better. And we're about to announce our next one, which is going to be in Tenerife in the Canary Islands. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It looks like that's something that's gonna, you're gonna run with it.
Yeah.
People deserve having the opportunity to learn from this kind of energy.
Yeah.
It's if people can learn from you guys and get a little bit of this energy and mix it with new energy to create even different things, someone with a different point of view will create something slightly better. Not better, but different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel that it's really lacking in the world of music production, especially electronic music production, communicating the soul, the storytelling, something that's beyond just the beats.
And taking care of the body and really being, mindful of like, what's your space like? Where do you create? How was your interactions with the people around you? Like taking all these parts of life and being like, that affects your art, and giving that a voice.
Learning how to track our own relationship to our canvas so that we can see our self-doubt, our lack of self-worth, and all of these things that are like the Achilles heel of the artist, the things that stop us from going out in the world and living our dream, So it's really fun to bring this together, because we work a lot on these things, and then bring it into a teaching scenario, which we intend to expand to something even bigger than just music production.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll be inviting visual artists and embodiment artists and talk more about the creative process and then the integration process. How do we apply it to our everyday and getting in the creative flow and using it as a tool of divination.
Yeah, our dream is to have a week-long retreat where there's these 3 different disciplines with 3 separate teachers, and we have group experiences which relate to all artists, and then they go off and we do the individual art forms. But then at night, we all come together, like 30 people, and have some sort of dance, cacao experience every night. So we're in the joy, the celebration,
the inspiration,
and the learning and the teaching and the exploring.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank God that people like that exist here. We need more good people. Let's talk a little bit the world tour that you're now starting.
Yeah.
You started in Australia. You came here. What's the next destination?
We're back to Australia for Rabbits Eat Lettuce in, an Easter party, which will be fun out in the bush. And then we've got a few months of prep before we head to Boom. That's our next one after that.
Boom again.
Yeah, straight into Boom, and then off to Ozora after that. And then we have Fort Decibel in France. And then I'm off to Brazil for a gig there, and then back to the Canary Islands for the retreat. So yeah.
How does it feel like going again to the biggest festivals, to Boom, to Ozora?
Oh, it's exciting. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I've only been to Boom. We've only been to Boom once. So, there's definitely that excitement to go back there again. Kalya in the Chill Out Gardens. I think that's going to be awesome.
I'm going to need to come this year. Huh?
No. And then Ozora, I mean, we've been to that one, 5 times?
It's one of our favorite. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're
very excited to go back
there.
to Ozora.
Yeah, it's just that main dance floor is such a vibe.
Yeah, we'll be doing Sonic Samadhi there too, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah,
we haven't been there.
Debut. Mm-hmm.
We haven't been there since they had the ambient dome stage. We were back in the chill out dome stage, but now there's an ambient and a chill out. So we're excited to bring Sonic Samadhi there.
There, and all the right reasons to be excited about it, huh? And I'm sure that more than you, tons of people out there are excited. Like the moment the lineup for the Boom comes out and the name Merkaba is on it, like it's a celebration. I remember so many big moments in my life, coming into closure. I remember so many big moments in my life that was correlated with your guys' music. Everybody that knows me from, since I'm 20, I'm 30 now. It's always about this music. It's always about this vibe. I've been living my life from a live set of yours to a live set of yours. And again, through me and through everybody else, I want to thank you guys so much for this energy, for this presence, for the present of music that you're doing there, that I don't know how much capacity you have inside your brain, inside your heart to create those things. But thanks whatever is going on out there that brought you here. And the gigs were amazing. And I'm sure the entire tour is going to be more than beautiful. And I want to thank you so much, guys, for coming here and sharing the time. That's a really a dream coming true for me. I'm usually not the kind of guy to be like, oh my God. Yeah. But, when it's due, it's due. 10 years doesn't go, it is what it is. So thank you so much, guys. If you have anything else that you want to share, anything else that you want people to know out there, go for it.
You go.
Anything that I forgot?
Just love. Keep opening, trusting, even the pain. Just keep with it. We're in this together.
Mostly the pain, guys. KohPhanCast, the official podcast of KohPhanCast Island.
Join the journey, stay for a while.